Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We're back on the Founderist live stream. You'll notice that there's just two of us today. Last week we had four people on the stream. Abby, my co-founder and co-host of this program, happily had a beautiful baby boy this week. She's going to be on maternity leave for a little bit, and I am going to be helming the ship. So today we've got a really cool guest. His name is Max Greenwald. He is the founder of a company called Warmly. They have a unique technology for communication. He's got a cool background. He knows all about startups, accelerators, building teams, working remote, technology, all of the things. So we're going to get some valuable takeaways today. We're going to learn about a cool company and a very neat technology that all entrepreneurs should be using. Max, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Andy. Looking forward to it.
So why don't you start by, usually when I host, I like it to be kind of like a movie. We'll talk about what you're doing now, reel it back to the origin story, and then the moving forward. So what is it that you do on a daily basis? What is Warmly? Let's start there.
Sure. Yeah, I love that. So Warmly tries to bring the warmth back into the sales process. So if you're running a business, you probably understand that sales are vital. We primarily work with B2B businesses, so that's businesses selling to their businesses, and who recognize that the cold, spammy nature of reaching out to millions of people just isn't working anymore. And so what we do is we help salespeople find new business, leveraging the kind of signals from their website, and I can get into how that works. And then we help them close business as well by helping them look more professional in their virtual sales calls. We have a unique technology that basically is a business card that hovers in your Zoom meetings. And it's too bad I can't show that now. But what's cool, if you look on the edge of this live stream, is that we see our name and a little bit about your about Founderist and the kind of color scheme and everything. You could imagine in a Zoom meeting, would it be useful when you're trying to sell somebody something to be able to display things about you, like hobbies, the location of where you are, the weather in your location, automatically adding the logo of the person you're trying to sell to over your shoulder, and a whole bunch of other things, all geared around how do you bring a little bit of warmth back to a virtual conversation, which is inherently a 2D screen. And so how do you make the conversation a little more 3D is the realm we're playing in. And so typically we help sales teams increase their sales by 20 to 30% as we implement our technology across the organization.
So I saw on your website the visual tool for putting these cool widgets around your head as you're talking to people. Does that work specifically with Zoom, or is it locally on your computer? Like, could you do it on Google Meet or one of the other platforms too?
Yeah, so we're expanding into Teams this year, and then the year after into Google Meet. Unfortunately, Teams and Meet are a little bit lagging in terms of their abilities to allow apps to kind of customize the experience, but they are working on getting to building out toward a store. Zoom is really the forerunner and really thought leader in letting third-party apps take over and manipulate and work on your Zoom experience. And so Zoom has an app store, and you can install our app as almost like an add-on to your Zoom meeting. Because of our relationship with Zoom, if you're a paying Zoom subscriber on their pro or business tier, you actually get Warmly for free for a year. We come pre-installed onto your computer, onto your Zoom client. Yeah.
Holy moly, that must be a valuable relationship. So you mentioned there's other components of what Warmly is. You talked about kind of lead generation and changing the context of how people communicate. Can you talk about, we'll put in the show notes and screenshots and everything of what the banner on the Zoom looks like, the environment piece, but can you explain the other components of the services you provide and how people can implement it?
Yeah, so at a high level, we're a warm lead platform, Warmly Warm Leads, and we do two main things. We help you find new leads, and then we help you close new customers or new leads. And so the find part, we put one line of code on your website, and then we'll tell you all of the companies and even some of the people that are visiting your site, even if they don't sign up for a demo or reach out to you, using our IP and cookie matching technology. And so we will give you sort of a whole list of folks that are visiting and let you create filters that say, I just want to talk to senior marketing people at companies size 50 to 500. We alert you instantly over Slack that they are on your website. And then we let you jump onto a Zoom call with them on your website to say, hey, I see you're visiting my website and reading some stuff right now. Would love to, continue the conversation if you're open to it. And if they accept that conversation, then all of a sudden you're in a Zoom meeting and you can use our name tag technology to help close the deal. So that's helping you find new customers based on your anonymous web traffic, and then helping you close those customers with sort of unique ways to display information on screen.
How does that look in terms of the website? People are getting accustomed to like the little chat bot that hangs out in the bottom corner like a pop-up, and you can have a window. When somebody comes back and we're talking to each other on a video on my website, how does it display?
It looks just like a Zoom meeting and somewhat like a chatbot that you might have experienced, but you're literally like having a video call like this. The salesperson turns on their camera, waves at you, is like, hey, you want to talk? And then the recipient doesn't need to turn on their video or even audio if they don't want, but they can. So you can actually have a full conversation on the website. We basically take the belief that chatbots are dying and nobody's responding to the little like thing in the corner that's like, talk to me. And so we are a sort of proactive messaging solution where you get notified of somebody on your website. You get to essentially watch them navigate the website in real time and decide, is this somebody who's a good fit for me to want to reach out to? And then you reach out and say, hey, real human here, not a chatbot, available, to chat if you want to.
They really need to find a way to better designate which ones are real or sophisticated or annoying, because the little chatbot thing, I've used plugins on several of my clients' WordPress sites where they have the little bot, but it goes to your Facebook Messenger. So the person responds, but it might not be instantaneous. But rather than doing the contact form where an email goes out and you get an email back, you can actually immediately go into a communication thread. But so few people use their Facebook Messenger DMs for business purposes or immediately respond to those. But in theory, one of your employees could get that directly to their phone. But interface wise, UI wise, there isn't any indicator that that's not an AI or a call center in India or anything when you click that little deal in the bottom corner. So you've go ahead, sorry.
Just the messenger thing is actually a really great idea. I think the more you can quickly connect an interested customer to the seller, the more likely you are to close that business. There are so many businesses out there where the first person you talk to is the one you're going to buy from. And so let's say you're buying a house, it's a huge purchase. And you're just looking for like a friendly real estate agent to help you with that. You might go to like 4 different websites you might type in, Denver real estate agents, and then you just reach out to the first 4. And the reality is the first one you talk to is likely, I think it's like 70% chance that's the one you go with. And so it's really important as the real estate agent that you are basically immediately able to respond to people reaching out. And that's just sort of one example of sort of customers who care about real-time immediate communication with folks who come by their website. You can think of like your website as a virtual storefront. Isn't it a shame that we don't staff a person in the way you'd staff a human being in a real store that you're walking by?
Right. So you guys have this technology. A lot of people out there have an idea for an app or a software solution, but they're a non-technical founder, or maybe they're an apprehensive side hustler, whatever it is. And usually that's like, I wish it was Zoom, but 10% better. Or all of these solutions for digital business cards that I can text to you, or QR code, or the little dot things, or any kind of fancy email signature. I use this website called Wise Stamps, and it allows you to do these really cool email signatures. And people always ask me because they still can't figure out the Outlook orientation of, I have so many different email accounts through all of my clients that I consult within, that I have Office 365 and Google and native solutions of so many kinds that your signature doesn't work on all of them. So there are some people that have come up with these web signature things, but overall, it's still pretty archaic in the, how do I represent myself on the internet? And now that we've all been Zoomified since the pandemic, we're used to looking at each other's faces. But I guess what I'm getting at is the solutions that you've created are not just 10% above what people are expecting. It's like 2x, 3x, like the overall experience of online commerce and online communication. So how did you come up with the genesis of this idea, and how long has it taken to get to the point that you're at now?
Yeah, it's a great point. So the thing I want to call out for any like aspiring entrepreneurs out there is like, and you may read this some the kind of Y Combinator verbiage around being 10x better, but it is true that if you're not driving revenue for a business or saving them money, then you basically have to be 10x better to be a solution that a lot of people will want to work with. And so if you can prove revenue or you can save money, being 10% better or 50% better or even 2x better is great. You'll sell sales because everyone wants to optimize making more money or reducing costs. But if anything else that you're building is like even 3x, 4x better, it won't be worth the overhead of like installation and getting going. And so for us with our, name tags in the Zoom meeting, that one is a visually extremely appealing, very interesting kind of everybody asks, how did you get that? I want that, kind of thing. So we've made it a very viral, easy to install, lowered the friction to kind of entry. It's free for up to 10 people at your company. Made it super easy to get going. It's right in your Zoom meeting and it's very visually appealing. Now, when we ask people like, does it save you 10%? Does it make you 10% more? Yes, and we can kind of like show that, but it's just super easy to install. Whereas our solution on the kind of website that helps you find more customers, we can objectively prove that we drive more revenue, potentially up to 30% more revenue per company. And so it's kind of a no-brainer to get going on it. And so I guess to maybe circle back to your earlier point about 10 versus 20 versus 3x, I would say our name tag in Zoom meetings is like 5 to 10x the Zoom experience. Like it is magic to see and be able to share more about yourself and fully customize this little square that we're all being used to. And so people install it, even though it may not always obviously prove that it like helps you drive more sales. Whereas our product on the website, the one that helps you find more customers, is objectively makes you money. And so it's like pretty easy to kind of make that a compelling ROI for folks to want to install. Hopefully that answers your question. I can also get into the history of how we thought of the idea.
So did you know that you wanted to have this, I don't even want to call it a suite of services because it's kind of more of a chain, but I want to track people that are looking at my website. I want to find a way to reel them back. I want to engage them in a human interaction and then make it beautiful. And so did you always have, when you came up with the idea of this, did you always have that whole experience of capturing people back into your website? Because clearly they've already been exposed to me, but they may have gone away. But then we're talking to each other and then it's great looking.
Yeah.
Was that always the plan?
No, absolutely not. And I think most entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs should know that like you should definitely have like the mission that stays the same of what you want to accomplish. Like we want to make sales warmer. We want to help connect people virtually. But the like stepping stones of how you get there can be very complicated and take a lot of user research and like exploring. And so, Warmly's actually pivoted 2 or 3 times in our journey. And then the Zoom product was sort of the first step of like help connect people. And then it was, okay, well, we built the Zoom product, it's going great. How do we essentially build more services that wrap around and create value? And so I think there's a common thread of making sales warmer. That's kind of our mission. But in terms of like how we're getting there, it is certainly we really can only see 2 chess moves ahead and we're doing our best to figure it out, but also really just listening to our customers, right? I mean, like if you just spend a shit ton of time with your customers and ask them what would help you make more money in the same realm of making sales warmer, they'll tell you, oh, we wish we could live chat with the people that are visiting our website. We wish we could look more professional in our calls. And then you just listen and build.
So I know a lot of business owners in the kind of founder space, service provider space, the solopreneurs and new entrepreneurs that are not that enterprise level size are often inundated with a CRM, a project management software, a XYZ email solution. They have a lot of different things that they're using. And there's things like Microsoft Loop and Notion that are trying to bring together, multiple platforms and multiple wikis into one. When it comes to adding your service, which is entirely different and entirely valuable, I'm sure a lot of people listening are wondering, is this going to break the bank? Like, do I have to be at a big technology company in order to do this? Or can Christopher, the wedding photographer in Santa Barbara, who has people come to his website because he has Google ranking and see his beautiful work, but then leave, is the solopreneur able to afford this?
So I think what you're kind of speaking to is like, how did Warmly think about our business model? Do we go after the product-led growth initiative of it's free to get started, there's a little bit of value for you, and then we eventually paywall you to like put down a credit card for something small, and then have a line of business that is focused on bigger companies, and then even like an enterprise segment? And over the course of our entrepreneurial journey, we've explored all of those angles with a North Star goal, because we are a venture-backed startup of building $1 billion company. And so you have to be able to tell a story of how you're going to go from, where you are as a small startup to being, a unicorn. And so to do that, you have to do some math. And the math is pretty clear. It's like you either need to have 1 million customers paying you $10, or you need to have 10 customers paying you $1 million. And so somewhere along that spectrum, or some combination along that spectrum, will get you to essentially $100 million in ARR, which is like at SaaS multiples implies $1 billion company. So it's math. And so I would say that our product on Zoom, which is free for anyone to get started with, is our viral volume-based getting started kind of solution where like anybody can install it. We have tons of solopreneurs who actually pay for a Zoom license, which I think is like $10 a month. And then you get Warmly for free on top of it. And then Warmly has sort of 2 professional tiers on top of that, $7 and $10 a month. So very reasonable to folks who really are excited about this stuff. So that's our solution that I think is for everybody. For our new solution, the one on your website that you're asking about, we don't yet have a self-serve tier, though we'd love to build one, where you'd basically just take a code snippet, put on your site, and you pay a little bit and figure it out. We do believe that is a business that we should work toward. However, there's a lot more money to be made in larger companies. And so we are primarily selling to companies size 50 to 250 because they're able to pay us, a significantly higher amount. So yeah, I hope that it doesn't ward off any Santa Barbaran photographers from wanting to get in touch with us. But I'd certainly recommend getting started with the professional looking Zoom business cards. And actually we do it not just in Zoom, but also in your calendar as well. So in your calendar invites, we'll display your business card information before you meet with folks virtually. So those are free to use.
So before we wind back the clock to you and to the development of this business, where are you in the development life cycle? How long has this been in the works? And at what point are you to your commercial product plan versus your MVP? Where are you in the timeline?
Yeah, so started the business about 3.5 years ago. My co-founders and I left cushy jobs at Google to start a company. We were building one product and then the pandemic hit. So we had to totally throw that one away because it wasn't working. And then we sort of started building for virtual sales, warmth and virtual sales after that. And so we raised a seed round coming out of Y Combinator, which is an accelerator program. We did Techstars, another accelerator program before that. And then we raised a Series A as well, I guess like about 1.5 years ago. So we are essentially 3.5 years in and are, I would say, almost at product market fit, which I would basically say is the point in a company when most of your users would say they'd be very disappointed if your solution were to go away. And so that is a really exciting point because when you reach product market fit as an early stage founder, it's the right time potentially to bring on more people to help scale the stuff that you figured out. But before you figured it out, you kind of got to keep the team small, move around, figure out what's going on, figure out how to build the right software that everyone will love. And so, yeah, I would say we're certainly a few years away from being from having 100 million in revenue, but we're definitely on our way.
Cool. So for people who see things like traditional venture-backed financing on TV and think that that's, a different universe. If you're not from Palo Alto, California, or Cambridge, Massachusetts, and you're not surrounded by either technology people, science people, or finance people, what is it like to, I think most entrepreneurs have heard of Y Combinator. It's, the best of the best. And they've heard of venture-backed businesses that have gone on to huge valuations. And there's this assumption that all tech companies are started with an exit, which, most of them are. What was it like when you came up with this idea? It sounds like you and your co-founders know the industry, know the technology, know the open source API elements of Google, et cetera. So when you had this idea, did you immediately know you wanted to get into incubators and raise private money? And how did you go about doing that?
So I started my career at Google in Silicon Valley. And so I think there was sort of this air around really everybody who lives in the Bay Area of the only way to start a business is to create a venture-backed, high growth startup. I mean, it was just VCs would shout from the rooftops about the importance of that. One thing to note, by the way, is that the loudest people on social media are venture capitalists because they sit around all day and write content to drive people to want to meet with them to then fund them. The founders who are actually building businesses don't really have time to write articles about how there are alternative ways to create businesses. And so certainly a lot of the rhetoric that you read online pushes people to want to do a venture backable business, which, by the way, I love doing it. And I think that it's a really exciting roller coaster, but it's not for everyone. It's very realistic to build a lifestyle business or a business with your own capital or take out a loan and not have to get on the venture roller coaster because the expectations are very freaking high. And the expectation of venture-backed business is you either go to the moon or you die. And so you're either walking away with a ton or nothing. And so if you're optimizing for, having a stable salary or making a good amount of money to live for the rest of your life, I think very reasonable to build a lifestyle business. But sort of my co-founders and I decided that early in our careers, I'm 28 years old, there's really the riskiest thing we could do would be to stay at Google. The riskiest thing we could do basically was not learn, because I'm a huge believer in the importance of learning as fast as possible. And that will compound on itself so that I can be more successful in my career when I'm in my 30s, 40s, and 50s. And so I felt like the way to learn as fast as possible was to get a street MBA in basically hard knock school of business building and throw myself in the ring. And so that's kind of the reason why we chose for our business to go with something that is venture backed. Also, the initial idea that we had was not something we could raise money for and become instantly profitable. The very earliest version of Warmly was actually more of a LinkedIn competitor that was kind of taking on, how to share information about yourself online. And that kind of business requires a lot of upfront capital that we would grow a large user base and then monetize over time. So we decided to go the venture route, but it's not for everyone. And if you do, everybody outside of the Valley can raise money. It's not a problem as long as you have a great idea, some good co-founders, and some traction, and are a compelling storyteller, being able to talk about your narrative of why your business is freaking awesome, why it'll be a huge business. I think people can be successful in fundraising. I didn't meet any of my investors in person when I fundraised our seed and Series A from Colorado and then subsequently Alaska. And so I actually published an article on TechCrunch called How to Fundraise Over Zoom, which basically details my tips for leveraging, Zoom and virtual kind of stuff. Of course, Warmly is part of that in terms of essentially getting investors excited about why your business will be successful.
Can you talk about, I think Techstars is probably a lot more reachable for business owners because they're in so many cities and they have so many programs. Can you talk about what it's like to get picked up by an incubator or an accelerator, and maybe the nuances of why they require you to come in with co-founders and what the commitment's like?
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of accelerator programs. Techstars and Y Combinator are the two big ones, but there's certainly a whole bunch of others out there that are awesome. There's a really cool program that I recommend a lot of folks called On Deck. That's beondeck.com. And they're a really good pre-company incubator for founders. Basically, like you join a fellowship of people who are considering starting a company, and you can find co-founders, and you can basically like workshop your ideas in a pretty safe environment. It's a really good sort of like almost pre-accelerator program. But I'd say for first-time founders, it's a really good idea to surround yourself with a couple things. A community of other founders that you can basically shit talk how hard what you're doing is and like bounce ideas off of. I think community is really important because your mental health will really suffer when you're building a business, especially one that's trying to be venture backed. 2 is the funding, which is just like it'll keep you afloat. And 3 is the kind of like mentorship and advice that people who've done it 10, 15 times before can save you a lot of time. And like, yes, there are lessons you have to learn by fucking up yourself, but there's also lessons that can be learned from people who've done it before, and you can save time in doing so you can basically survive longer. We love Techstars. Techstars is an incredible program. We went to Techstars Boulder in Colorado, which is actually the original program. When you apply to Techstars, you pick just one location, or maybe it's 2 locations now that you would want to go to. And then the managing directors of those local locations will reach out to you if they find you to be of interest. I think the most important thing when applying to one of these accelerator programs is the founding team. When you make a bet at the early stages, I think time and time again, it's just proven the best looking teams are the ones that are the most successful, which is encouraging in that if you believe in yourself, which hopefully you do, is that you can convey how awesome you and your co-founders are to the investors. But it also means like, there's no harm in having a great business that's going to have a lot of traction. But I do think that like you want to find co-founders. Typically, I guess like the stats have shown, and there's outlier founders like Eric Yuan at Zoom is a solo founder, made $1 billion business, but stats have mostly shown time and time again that 2 and sometimes 3, but mostly 2 total founders are most successful because they're able to split the main sort of difference of sales and coding, but also be able to weather the storm. I mean, my co-founders are my closest friends and are the people that I turn to when shit is really, really hard. And you need somebody, I think, to make difficult decisions with. And so you're less likely to throw in the towel when you're on the journey with somebody else that you're really close to. So I think strong founding team is the most important quality these accelerator programs look for. And I would highly encourage any first-time founder to find a co-founder and then apply to an accelerator program.
Did you guys come up with this idea while you were still at Google?
We came up with a very
when you
first
had your
version.
parachute out of your corporate jobs, did you know what was next?
We had the dumbest idea of all time and pivoted multiple times since. The very, very first version of Warmly was basically Tinder for co-founders. So the idea was that I couldn't find a co-founder, and I was like, what if there was a swipey app where you could like get matched to other founders? And I think that was a great first foray into the world of professional networking and virtual sales, but ultimately wasn't a large business because basically like you find that people aren't willing to pay for it and the market's not that big would be the main things.
Interesting. So I've had a lot of friends and clients who worked in positions throughout companies like Amazon. And when they went to leave to start their own thing, they ended up finding friction from their former employer because there's fine print that things you create while you're employed by a company like Amazon, in response to all of those nice sign-on bonuses and stock options that you got for your first 2 years. If you're young and you're in your 20s and you decide to start a dating app while you're an engineer at Amazon, a lot of times people end up with some kind of cease and desist because you created something while you were employed there. Does Google have something like that? And did you guys run into any friction on your unique ideas breaking out on your own?
Probably does, as long as you don't do it on corporate time or on corporate like technology, like you basically use your own personal computer, like it's fine. I think that shouldn't dissuade anybody. I think the likelihood that you get large enough, fast enough that anybody at corporate Google or Amazon puts the pieces together is incredibly small. Maybe Amazon's just like really vindictive and that's just like their like culture. But no, I think in general, like these businesses understand. And in fact, Google in the early days really pushed people to go leave and start companies with the idea that one, they would become future customers of Google. We spend a lot of money on Google Cloud Platform every year. And two, that like it's just good for the world to like be building new things, and Google could always acquire us down the road or whatever. I don't think Google would, but like the point is that they are comfortable with folks going off and starting their own thing for that potential future. So no, I don't think it's an issue.
Love that. So one of the things we like to ask everybody is, first of all, are there any things that you suggest at the first level today, action steps that somebody can take? Are there any podcasts or books that you're recommending lately?
Sure. Well, I think rather than podcasts or books, what I could be most helpful on is recommending tools. These are basically sort of like a top 10 list, I think, of fantastic, easy to install software that would make any business more successful. The first thing I recommend early stage founders do is sign up for Cabal. It's getcabal.com. And essentially what it is, it's a free software to send a newsletter to your early community. And I think one of the best ways to hold yourself accountable for making progress every week, but also building a community of people willing to help you, is essentially email every single week via this sort of little newsletter platform and grow your community. And so every week I add 15, 20 new people. I'm going to add you, Andy, to my list, my newsletter. And we now have over 1,000 people over the course of 3 years that are listening, watching, and seeing Warmly grow in action, because it takes a village to make a business successful. And so you want to tell your story early and often. And so I think Get Cabal or Cabal is a great software for that. On the like sales and marketing side, I'm a big fan of linkedelf.io. They're a software that helps you essentially mass add people on LinkedIn and then write customized messaging campaigns to grow your network on LinkedIn. Totally worth the money. It allows me to drive like 40 new sales conversations a month. And then basically when people respond, then you sort of type them out and work with them to pick a time. It's great. Also in the kind of sales world, there's a great company called Connect the Dots. It's ctd.ai. It allows you to connect your emails and LinkedIn and basically find the shortest path warm introduction into whoever you want to meet. And so let's say you're doing early user research and you want to talk to senior salespeople at companies, it'll help you get connected there. Let's say you're selling more actively and you want to talk to HR leaders, it'll help you get connected there. And you can basically upload lists of companies or people you want to get connected to, and it helps you do that. It's kind of like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, but for founders. So I'm a big fan of that. Besides Warmly, of course, which I think is a great tool for founders to use for looking more professional in their meetings. I'm also a fan of which is mmhmm.app, app. And they're sort of a virtual presentation software that's like really compelling for folks to get going on. I also think that early stage founders are probably sleeping if they're not following what's happening in AI. And so getting deep on Twitter and following the top 10 AI influencers is probably really good. There are tools that are being launched literally daily or weekly these days that automate away a lot of the jobs that you might not be able to afford to do. So if you can't afford to hire a designer, if you can't afford to hire a product person, if you can't afford to hire a business person, like there's a lot of these really incredible AI tools that'll help do like 80% of what you need, which is really more than enough to get started. I could go on with a whole bunch more stuff. Maybe for email using Superhuman or Mixmax, mixmax.com. That was a really great add-on to sort of do stuff like loop back emails that are unresponded to, or better sort your inbox and send out mass emails to folks. I could go on and on with different tools, but I would say those are a good starter pack to get going. And then just generally the advice of grow your Twitter, grow your LinkedIn, build a community. People need to watch you build in public, which is this ethos of like, whatever you're building, don't think it's like a secret that you don't want to tell anyone. There's no such thing as proprietary information. Everybody's thought of every idea before. It's all about execution. And so I think that folks who are building businesses should be shouting from the rooftops about whatever they're doing.
I have to backtrack, because would you talk to us about Twitter? And if you're not in media or politics, should you be on Twitter? Who should be on Twitter? Why?
I think everybody should be on Twitter. We can sort of set aside the whole like Elon Musk buying it kind of thing. But if you generally buy into the belief that it is the public town square, it is the place where most technologists are communicating their ideas. And so I am probably part of a niche part of Twitter that is mostly following founders, VCs, technologists who are posting what they're building. But it is like kind of the main way that I consume information these days. And I think you should follow. I don't do I don't even know what politics is. I don't follow anyone on politics, so no politics. I don't do media either. I don't like read the news, so I like set those parts of Twitter aside. But I'm very keen to learn essentially the latest technology coming out of Silicon Valley. But again, that's my industry as an entrepreneur, and so I think that like getting involved there is really useful, and everyone should do it.
It's very odd that people know that things like Twitter and Reddit are invaluable when it comes to gathering information and keeping up, but they just don't really know where to start when everyone was on Twitter 10 years ago. And so I get that question all the time and I don't use it, so I haven't really known. Okay, Max, so one of the hard hitters that Abby always sticks the landing on at the end of our episodes is, what is something right now that you are personally or professionally proud of? We're ending Q1 of 2023. We just did. What's something that you're fired up about right now?
I think everyone's fired up about AI, but I would say that the AI advancements in sales technology will be fantastic. Basically, by putting AI into your product, which everyone should do, we should be able to dramatically, let's just say potentially even 2x the successfulness of our software. Imagine, for example, if you get into a call with somebody, we scrape the web for everything about them, and then we auto-generate a custom business card hovering in front of you based on whoever you're talking to. That's pretty powerful, right? So like, Andy, we probably have some stuff in common that we don't know about, but the AI would be able to basically find that out and then put up here, hey, we both love to ski. And then you'd be like, oh, you love to ski, I love to ski. And so like, there's like really cool stuff that I think gets me fired up. So that's maybe in the professional sense. On a personal sense, I am going to be exploring more of the world. When I was growing up, I lived in Spain, and I'm headed to Berlin this summer. And so just getting out of the US for a bit and meeting up with the entrepreneurial or founder community there, I think will be really exciting. So looking forward to a summer in Berlin.
Okay, and I have to ask one more thing. When Joe Internet decided to create cookies, they fortuitously gave it a very good name of something that everybody loves. But now in the media and online experience, cookies are kind of treated more like termites or fire ants. When you have a product that is based on scraping or getting access to people's tracking data, is that a friction point that you have of people wanting to click on every single website they go to, opt out of cookies, et cetera?
We have not seen a sort of web visitor decrease for any of our customers who use our technology. I believe that cookies and the general space of tracking helps to personalize information for both buyers and sellers. Certainly, if you're privacy conscious, of which they're the loudest people, but really it's a 0.1% of the internet. Those folks deserve the right and should be able to opt out and have the control to not be tracked in any way. The easiest way to do it is use Brave. It's a browser that basically doesn't allow any cookie or IP address tracking. It's like perfect for those folks. But for everyone else, like me, I'm a consumer and I want to be shown relevant, useful things for me. And so again, maybe it's just sort of my attitude or take, but I think it's like good for the world. But I know that there is a sort of negative sentiment around it. Google and Apple are doing some, I think, privacy forward thinking around how to still allow targeting while preserving user privacy. And I think that'll probably be good for the ecosystem and the industry over time.
Awesome. Well, I know you've got busy things to do this Friday, so why don't you wrap it up with what are the ways that people can contact you and follow both you and the business?
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it. I'll post this in the chat for folks, but feel free to follow me on Twitter or reach out on Twitter at Max P. Greenwald. You can email me directly at max@warmly.ai if you want to get in touch. And then warmly.ai is the go-to place to sign up for our free Zoom business card. Thank you so much for having me on, Andy. Really fun to do the podcast and the live stream as well. It's always great to talk about the craziness of building a business. But for those listening, like, don't forget that it's a really, really hard journey. And like, while we've had some success, like success that I publicize and talk about, there's a million failures, hard things, issues, firings, hirings, lost customers, the hard no's from hundreds of VCs that everyone goes through. So it's a roller coaster of a journey, and a journey worth doing, because I think it helps you lead a meaningful life. But there are ups and downs. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And in the vein of continuing behind the scenes and keeping up with you, how do people get on your email list or your newsletter list?
Great question. If you email me and ask to be on our list, I will add anybody who emails me.
Love it. We'll put all that in the show notes, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again soon. I think you've probably going to have some big news in the next year or so, huh?
Certainly hope so, man.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Have a good one. Cheers, Andy. Thank you.